Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank. We're jumping right into things, but in the last episode we used this really fun Swagger Thundurus plus Assault Vest Own Tempo Avalugg team, so we'll be playing a couple more matches with it today. This first team is wild. They have a Seismitoad, Whimsicott, Togekiss, Conkeldurr, which reminds me of basically the very beginning of Sword and Shield, VGC 2020, and then Thundurus and Entei. Okay. I mean, for Avalugg, this isn't the easiest matchup, mainly because they have an Entei and a Conkeldurr. The Seismitoad is really my big question mark here. Entei is pretty scary. Can't set up Trick Room that easily. I kind of want to just go with Thundurus and Avalugg anyway, honestly, and just like Swagger Max Quake turn 1. Feeny definitely has a switch. It's just scary because we could get burnt by Entei really easily, right? I feel like Urshifu is really subpar here, so you probably don't bring that. Maybe regular Cinderace, honestly. Or Bronzong? I guess Urshifu's up. Advantage here would be a Wicked Blow. I'm really leaning towards Bronzong or Cinderace here, though. I'm gonna go with Cinderace. This one's tricky, though. Like, this is one of the matchups where I wish we had Thunder Wave on Thundurus instead, but it's kind of tough to fit onto it, right? So, Max Entei is definitely something we might want to consider from their end, because, like, Whimsicott could have Sunny Day here. So, this should be an interesting one. Either way, huge thank you to Bars and Willie once again for the team. If you haven't seen the last episode, you can really see how good Avalugg can be. So, check out that last episode. Yeah, it was super, super dominant, especially in the earlier games. And so, yeah. This is a dream for us, honestly. They go Whimsicott plus Thundurus. Doesn't get any better than that for Avalugg. So, I'm happy about that. My only fear is if they have Switcheroo here. Which, honestly, could be a possibility here. I mean, what is going to happen turn 1? Like, I feel like this is offensive Thundurus. I feel like Switcheroo is pretty unlikely. I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to just Swagger into Avalugg and just Rock Slide. Because that covers for an Entei switch out. If you switch Thundurus out. Okay, they max. Wow. If you're maxing, I really do feel like you have Switcheroo here. Because otherwise, why would you max in front of Avalugg, right? Okay. If they Switcheroo, though, things get interesting. Because then you steal away my AV, which means your Whimsicott can't do anything else other than Moonblast. This is why I didn't want to max on turn 1. I knew they had it. Oh, okay. I could have switched Avalugg out then in anticipation of it. Well, it'll be interesting if for some reason they didn't target Avalugg. There's no way. You're definitely doubling up into it. Yeah. And they go for Airstream. Okay, I'd rather see Airstream than Knuckle, I guess. Avalugg doesn't take that much, honestly, so could be worse. It's been a while since we ran into Eject Whimsicott, but yeah. I felt like that there was no way my opponent was going to lead this if they didn't. So, I mean, it doesn't look great, right? But it honestly could be a lot worse. Because I can just go into Cinderace right now. I think we probably just max Cinderace, right? Because you can't Tailwind with Whimsicott. I guess, no, hold on. Because if I can't Airstream, 2 Max Lightnings might also KO Cinderace. I think we play towards Dynamax Cinderace in the late game, but not right now. Like, what I want to do here is Thunderbolt into Thundurus. And I almost want to switch back out into Avalugg. I don't know. Avalugg's not, like, terrible, though. But I feel like my opponent can't beat Cinderace in the late game. Like, Cinderace will just one-shot everything. So, I'm going to Thunderbolt and switch back out into Avalugg. The reason for this is just because, like, Avalugg's already taken damage. I don't really want to max something that's taken, like, 40% and doesn't have an item anymore, right? So, we used Avalugg here as bait, basically. And I'm fine with that. They might double up onto Thundurus. Even if you do that, it's, like, fine. I kind of like swaggering the Avalugg as a switch-in. That would have been kind of a nice play. Max Lightning. Okay, so they did double up onto Thundurus. That's fine, though. Oh my gosh. Wait, we survive with 1 HP? No way. That's epic. Because in the end, my opponent will have spent... Like, the whole thing with eject on turn 1 is you're basically trying to cheese your opponent on and like getting rid of their Dynamax, right? It's a very strong strategy. And we get a crit there too, so everything going our way this turn. You're just gonna Lightning Avalugg here, right? That's not even gonna KO. I could max Avalugg here, but I don't feel like that's the right option when they have an Entei and a Conkeldurr in the back. Like, I think we just max Cinderace at this point. So, I'm down to just Swagger Avalugg and Rock Slide here. Even if you double up and KO the Avalugg, okay, they switch out. I don't even think a Max Lightning KOs Avalugg here, truth be told. But this is smart. They're switching in so they get a speed boost onto the Entei. Yeah, I like that play a lot. But this is the thing, right? Like, because they didn't get to get rid of my Dynamax on turn 1, this actually isn't that bad for us. And if you're going for an Airstream and you don't KO Avalugg here, we should just win the game with the Rock Slide straight up. And they go for Thundurus. Perfect. Nice. So in the end, actually, Avalugg came out in a great spot, and it's actually going to give me a lot more than I was expecting. So that's the thing. You do want to just be very careful about eject button when you see Whimsicott. Like, yes, it's going to be Sash more often than not, but there's enough eject button Whimsicotts out there that you do have to be aware of that as a possibility. So, great. I get Cinderace out now. I guess the slight issue is I don't have Sucker Punch. Ooh, maybe it was actually correct to go into Feeny first then. We have Feeny in the back. Whimsicott's useless for my opponent. And I'll outspeed Entei after I Airstream into Thundurus here. So I think the play is just to max Airstream into Thundurus. With Avalugg, it's very easy to switch this out into Feeny. And I think I'm down for that. Am I down for that? Because Feeny should win the late game, actually, once Thundurus is down. Never mind. I actually think we just sacrifice Avalugg here. So I'm just going to Airstream into Thundurus. And, Icicle Spear. Avalugg has done more than I needed it to. That single Rock Slide alone was so good for us, right? Oh, and they actually end up just forfeiting. I don't think this was, like, a sizable amount of a lead where, like, they needed to forfeit, but I can see why. You know, in the end, they had a Whimsicott that could only just use Moonblast. Their Thundurus obviously was very low. Like, yeah, I mean, like, if I just played decently well, like, yeah, we would have won that. So I don't blame them for forfeiting. You know, it's never over until it's actually over, but especially because I didn't see my opponent's last one at that point. But I think, given how we stalled out the early game, Avalugg, Cinderace was in a really good spot. Because in that position, oh, you know what they could have done, though? That could have been interesting if they went for Fly on Thundurus onto the Cinderace slot. Or not the Cinderace slot, sorry, Fly onto the, onto the Cinderace slot, because then I would have gotten an Airstream off into that slot. But I didn't want to Airstream into Entei, so, like, I think that game was still potentially winnable, because you can do some pretty interesting things with Fly. I actually didn't consider that turn. If you Fly and then just Sacred Fire, that can be pretty bad. Okay, this reminds me a lot of, like, the rank number 1 team we used earlier in the year, or in the season. Metagross is obviously a really big issue for Avalugg. This one's weird, because, like, we have Pokemon that beat everything, but we have to choose correctly, right? I can never deny Sucker Punch Grim onto Weakness Policy Metagross. That's what's really scaring me right now. Like, just a Grim Metagross lead here would be really bad. I do have Cinderace and Urshifu. If I'm my opponent, what am I? I'm not bringing Garchomp, I don't think. Garchomp's definitely not coming out. Actually, I wouldn't say not definitely. I think I'm going to go Cinderace, Urshifu. Do I just not bring Avalugg? It's not that good here, but it does give me an answer. Well, it beats Garchomp, and now, as fun as Avalugg is, I don't think it's the call here. Yeah, we're not going to bring it into this one. But basically, Avalugg won us that last game in the sense that it diverted the, it baited the Switcheroo on turn 1, right? And Switcheroo is a very high risk, high reward play. Actually, it's often low risk, high reward, I should say. But because we had the Assault Vest there, right, turned it into a completely different game. Wow, it's actually Grim and Sylveon. So Thundurus plus Avalugg actually would have done really well here. But this indicates to me that it's going to be Reflect turn 1, and maybe even Yawn. Which I'm honestly fine with because we have Feeny in the back. I could max. This was actually a really smart lead, right? Because even if I went Thundurus Avalugg, I would be thinking, hey, this is great, but then I just waste my max turns, and then they just bring in Metagross or Rotom and then clean up against Avalugg. So this is why Avalugg just didn't make very much sense in the context of this matchup. I'm gonna just Iron Head Sylveon turn 1, and I think switch Urshifu out into Feeny. And then we can start Calm Minding with Feeny. The trouble here is that I don't have that much bulk, right? And my opponent has more bulk, but they also have more offense. So this is not very easy for us, but that's okay. You do have to identify when you can bring Avalugg into matchups, though, right? Like, it was really good into that last one. Oh, they actually have Fake Out, okay. But they target Urshifu, yep, that's fine. Oh, I could have knocked out Grimmsnarl here, then. They would have gotten screens up either. That would have been really nice for us. Sash Sylveon, wow. I've never seen that before. But we get a flinch. Man, that's fortunate. Okay. The thing is, Sylveon doesn't scare me that much. Like, I honestly want to Iron Head Grimmsnarl and Calm Mind in this position. Yeah, I'm down for that. That was a really lucky flint. Oh, scary face. Okay. But that doesn't, like, concern me that much. If I just Muddy Water... Okay, the scary face is smart, though, right? Because if I max there, we're in a lot of trouble. But I'm never maxing against this because I don't feel any offensive... Like, I don't feel offensively pressured at all right now. It's just Hyper Voice. Okay, yeah, we're in great shape, I think. Babiri Grim. Wow, that's a fun throwback to, like, the beginning of VGC 2020. Okay. This has been a great start, honestly. Flinch last turn was definitely lucky because it prevented us from, like, eating up, you know, damage. Here I'm down to just switch Cinderace out into Bronzong, honestly. Because I want to conserve Cinderace and just Muddy Water, I think. Yeah, Muddy Water might just be a double KO. It's probably Scary Face into Feeny. I wish I had Sucker Punch, because if I did, it'd just be a double KO. I could have Muddy Water last turn. That could have been nice. I don't mind Calm Minding, though. I don't really regret that. Definitely did not expect Focus Sash Sylveon, though. I don't think I've actually ever seen that. But it makes a lot of sense. There's weakness policy on Garchomp or Moltres here for sure, right? It's self-quick attack to activate policy. I guess my one issue here is that Cinderace has taken a decent amount of damage, so I don't know if it's really the best Dynamax option at this point, but like what else would be? And there's Fake Tears as well. Okay, this is certainly the Grimmsnarl set. But that means there's no screens, right? Which is really important. We don't hit the Grimm there. Could be a problem. Although now I realize, like, the odds of it... Where's the weakness policy? I didn't even think about that fully, because Sylveon, like, there's 3 potential policy users on my opponent's team in Moltres, Garchomp, and Metagross. So I don't know where it is. The Mist there definitely hurts, because let's say they have Moltres right now, they could bring it out. That would actually put us in a really bad spot. But I can't complain. It's just Rotom, though. We have a really cheeky play here because we have Ally Switch. Like, I could just Ally Switch. And max Geyser into Rotom. I mean, truth be told, that's kind of a game-winning play right there. Well, I guess I don't know if +1 KOs. So maybe the better play is actually to just Ally Switch and Muddy Water instead. I think I'm down for that. It's weird because we don't have a great max option right now. Yeah, I think I'm down to Ally Switch and Muddy Water. If they've read into it, that's a really job well done on their end. Because in order to, you would have, oh, you know what they could do to cover for Ally Switch, which would be really smart? They could Fake Tears, Max Lightning, Bronzong right now. Ooh, but they don't max. Okay. Nasty Plot? Nope. Okay, just T-Bolt into Bronzong. And they're Life Orb Rotom as well. Wow. Very interesting team. Life Orb Rotom, Focus Sash on the Rotom, on the Sylveon. I mean, that should win us the game, though, honestly. Because, like, they only have... I mean, whatever their last one is, obviously, is going to max at this point, but, like, yeah. We have a 4-2 lead, and we have Cinderace, so... Let's not throw it. It's definitely still throwable, but... We've seen Grimmsnarl's full moveset. Fake Out, Spirit Break, Fake Tears, and Scary Face. So it can't Protect. So So we can double up onto, and their last one's Metagross, yeah. This is definitely going to be AV Metagross then, I think. If you don't have Sucker Punch on this thing, and given the fact that there was Garchomp and Moltres, one of those has to be Policy, and I think Sylveon is Quick Attack onto one of those. Yeah. I mean, Cinderace should just win this game at this point, right? Ash should Bronzong, and we have Urshifu in the back. I mean, it's really the perfect group of Pokemon to have. So, you always just Moonblast and Body Press here, because we know Grimmsnarl doesn't have Protect. Once we knock out the Grimmsnarl, there's really no way to win the game from my opponent's end. We could just max Urshifu and go for our max move twice. Or Cinderace. Like, the thing is, I played very specifically to try to beat both Metagross and Rotom-H in this game, right? Because if you look at our team, Avalugg is actually one of the main offensive options, and so it's no surprise that they brought both Metagross and Rotom-H. However, once again, this is like the mark of good team building, right? The fact that this team has answers to the biggest threats to Avalugg is really important, because basically in the last 2 games, we brought Avalugg and our opponents basically had to respect it and had to bring answers against it. However, as a result, because we didn't play as heavily towards Avalugg, we were able to use that to our advantage, right? Which was really critical. Ally Switch on Bronzong was really the key move in this game, though, I'd have to say. If I wanted to get around it, I could have gone potentially Protect. They go for Fake Tears, but yeah, unless you're special Metagross, it doesn't really accomplish anything. The main thing here is one play, if let's say we didn't have Ally Switch on that position, I could have protected Feeny and just gone for Trick Room. Like, that would have been the play. I think Rotom honestly needed to max in this game. Because, like, Metagross maxing is, like, nice, but it can't really accomplish that much at this point anyway, right? So, yeah. The reason I just wanted to double up onto Grimmsnarl there was to just guarantee the knockout onto it. Because this is actually heat-proof Bronzong, if I remember correctly. So, yeah. Anytime you have an early lead, you just want to trade knockouts with your opponent, right? And Bronzong alone is a complete counter to Metagross. So, like, Bronzong actually did very well into this matchup because my opponent's only answering to it was Rotom or the Galarian Moltres, but obviously they didn't bring the Galarian Moltres. So, yeah. I'm going to just bring out Urshifu now. We go Wicked Blow, Iron Defense, Wicked Blow, Iron Defense, Body Press. Yeah, we might not even need to max in this game. So, yep. Really interesting text here, though, right? Like, Sylveon, you don't typically expect Focus Sash. I'd expect, like, Pixie Plate or something. Or Babiri Berry on that. Grimmsnarl more often feels like it's, you know, dual screens. Occasionally Trick Full Instance still, you know, is a very good set. It was honestly a good thing for us here that Grimmsnarl didn't set up screens. Because I was like, man, it's going to be really difficult to break through and actually do damage here. But Cinderace as a lead actually worked out really, really nicely for us. So I'm quite pleased about that. So, yeah, there's really no... Oh, yeah, I think Wicked Blow itself might just be a 2-hit KO. Because it doesn't care about the defense boosts. Yep. So, the main thing here is we needed to use Avalugg to bait our opponent, right? Now, this could have played out completely different. Like, let's say my opponent knew I wasn't bringing Avalugg, then Moltres and Garchomp suddenly become significantly more viable, right? Moltres is actually very, very good into us, into the couple of Pokemon that I brought specifically. Especially when you consider the turn in which I KO'd Sylveon, and they had a free switch in, and they went for Fake Tears on a Feeny. Imagine if Moltres came out in that position, right? I'd actually be in a really rough spot, because Cinderace is around half, Moltres demolishes Bronzong and the Urshifu. And then my last one is the Feeny, which would be at -2, right? So all those add up really, really quickly. So for that reason, it's this was a really interesting game because you could see how sometimes you have the advantage solely off team preview, right? Avalugg commands so much respect, that my opponent brought so many tools to try to beat it, but in the end, by not even bringing it into the matchup, the rest of the Pokemon cover for Avalugg's weakness really, really well. So yeah, I think that's just kind of a classic example of how sometimes team preview adds an additional element to the game, right? Because it doesn't feel like, I don't think my opponent like misplayed or played poorly by any means, right? They probably went for really their best play in almost every position. If you expect, I guess, Ally Switch on Bronzong, like Fake Tears Thunderbolt onto Bronzong could have been a really nice play. I also forgot, like, because we were heat-proof, maybe we were fine to go for the Trick Room play. That could have been really interesting. Either way, third match of the day. And what I meant to say about that last one is, like, I feel like my opponent, you know, made correct plays across the board, but this is why teams and your team selection and your Pokemon selection and team preview is such an important element of Pokemon. It doesn't matter how good of a player you are. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. The best players can figure out how to win in any, like, suboptimal matchup, but you have to work a lot harder for that, right? And we had the significant advantage in that last game just because our 4 Pokemon that we brought matched up a lot better into my opponent's 4 Pokemon. So Avalugg's very good here. The only thing to watch out for is going to be that Rotom-H. Well, actually, Celesteela is kind of an issue as well. But we have Eerie Impulse on Thundurus, which is super good. Now, if I'm my opponent and I'm trying to counter Avalugg, I would lead Celesteela, Rotom, Celesteela, Moltres. So maybe we use Avalugg for cleanup, honestly. Right? Like, I could go Thundurus, Cinderace. Even regular Avalugg is pretty good in this game. And then Feeny? Bronzong's not bad. It actually single-handedly wins against Garchomp. Or, sorry, against Porygon. Feeny does look really good on paper here, though. They're both really solid. I'm going to go with Feeny, I think. But I think you could easily make an argument for Bronzong as well. So, we'll see. Avalugg can be really good here, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself and just lead it, because there are a lot of things that could counter us, and without knowing the Rotom-H moveset, like, that could very easily have Will-O-Wisp and just burn Avalugg in the beginning of the game, right? That's not good for us either. So, I want to confirm my opponent's movesets, ideally get them to max first. They go Rotom plus Garchomp, okay. I wouldn't say this is that good for us, honestly. Like, if I had Thundurus plus Avalugg, I could have just gone Eerie Impulse Rotom, max Hailstorm Garchomp turn 1, but it's also not terrible for us. Like, I'm down to just Eerie Impulse Rotom, max Cinderace, and Steel Spike into Garchomp. Nah, Rotom should be the priority though, right? Like, why do I care about Garchomp? Garchomp's Swords Dancing is a big problem here too, no? Well, maybe then, because to cover for Swords Dance, I do want to Steel Spike into it. Okay, I'm gonna Steel Spike into it. Yeah, I mean, the main tricky thing here is I don't know the Rotom-H moveset, right? Like, let's say it did have Will-O-Wisp, then Thundurus plus Avalugg, like, theoretically... Oh, then I get a Taunted Rotom. Huh. Yeah, actually, if I went Thundurus Avalugg... I don't know, though. I think, like, Celesteela as a lead was actually very likely here to counter Avalugg specifically. So, you know, it's funny. I was just talking about Team Preview giving you an advantage or playing mind games, right? In this one, like... I got out mind gamed in the sense that I was expecting Celesteela. However, it's like, this is fine, honestly. Cinderace is not bad into this. Although I guess if Garchomp maxes, this gets really dicey really quickly, because I don't do that much damage with Steel Spike, right? Okay. I mean, I get a defense boost, which is nice. The thing is, I could have maxed Airstream into Garchomp, which would have been really interesting. So we'll get Eerie Impulse, which is at least nice, but... I don't know, this doesn't feel that great, to be honest, because this felt like a great Avalugg game, but I need to deal with Rotom in the early... And my opponent totally could have just gone on a, like, Max Quick Overheat here into Cinderace. That would be a really sick play. Okay, wait, never mind. Wait, is that a crit, or does it just really do that much? Okay, yeah, that was a crit. That's a big crit, although I don't know if another one KOs anyway. If it doesn't, then... I honestly don't want it to, because I feel kind of bad. You never want to win the game off RNG. Obviously, RNG is an element of Pokemon, but yeah, okay. They just go for Rockfall, though, so that's great. Yeah. Honestly, I feel really good about our position now after turn 1, regardless of what Rotom goes for here. Unless it's Will-O-Wisp onto Cinderace, which would be actually a really good play. Nope, they just Nasty Plot. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, given that, like, we can keep shutting down the Nasty Plots, which is, I just, like, want to boost Cinderace's attack if I can, right? Now you can overheat into Cinderace pretty easily as well. So the question is, yeah, whether or not I KO Garchomp with another Steel Spike. I'm not 100% sure about that. I mean, I'm down to just Eerie Impulse into Rotom again. We have Feeny and Avalugg in the back. Both which are pretty good, but Cinderace's main appeal is actually to deal with Celesteela. So, like, if this were a best of 3, I would just lead Thundurus Avalugg, because now I know Rotom doesn't even have Will-O-Wisp. I really don't need to, like, respect it that much, right? Will-O-Wisp was the main thing I was worried about. Yes, I have Feeny to switch in for Will-O-Wisp and Taunt, but, like, that means I can't Swagger. Okay, I'm down to just Eerie Impulse Rotom here. I'm gonna Airstream Garchomp here. I don't want to Steel Spike in case they overheat into Cinderace. Nicely done. Okay, so they don't have Protect on Rotom. That's what that typically indicates to me. I don't mind that too much, but it will make next turn quite interesting. If anything, though, this is damage into Rotom, and I want to damage into Rotom, so I'll take it. It's very good damage, actually. Now, this next turn is interesting, because I could switch out Thundurus, right? I don't really get that much value from an Eerie Impulse. Yeah, they're going to Rockfall again, which is fine. We can go into Avalugg. Oh, nice. They target Cinderace. Although, that was a nice play. They read into me. Because if I just Steel Spiked again there... Well, it covers, I guess, because you're defensive with Rotom, right? Like, if I Steel Spike, you take no damage with Rotom, and that's a good turn for you. What's the item on this thing? It's not Citrus, but it's also not Goggles. Huh. I have no idea. Interesting. Okay, another ally switch here. Definitely a possibility. You know what I like? I like going into Tapu Fini here. And just going for an Airstream here into Garchomp. Because this gives a speed boost onto Fini. And Fini with a speed boost is actually very good into my opponent's team. This also allows me to conserve Thundurus, which I didn't even think about as much. That's a good answer in a Celesteela in itself. So, yeah. You know, they could go for another ally switch Rockfall into Cinderace, which would be a pretty good play on their end. They're not going to ally switch this time around. I don't know if this KOs, though. It's pretty close. Nice, it is enough. Okay. So, definitely a lucky critical hit then, right? Because the critical hit meant that they were forced to basically ally switch on turn 2. But... yeah, this is interesting now. Because I don't think my opponent can deal with Fini with the speed boost very well at all. Now, Fini isn't that fast, so even with the speed boost, it often is slower than a lot of things, but... and they overheat. Perfect. Okay. That actually is enough for a KO, which is impressive. So we've seen Overheat, Nasty Plot, Ally Switch. I mean, it's very rare to not run both Overheat and Thunderbolt, so I think it's safe to assume. I don't know the item on this Rotom. I'm guessing it's one of, like, the Fiwam berries, like Figgy. But I don't know. Now, what do they have in the back? Celesteela? Like, I kind of want to... no, I don't think it's right. Is it right to go into Avalugg outright? Like, I honestly think it's fine because we have AV and our Fini covers for Rotom right now. It just can be a little bit awkward if they bring out, I don't know, Celesteela right now. But I don't think they will because you know I have Thundurus in the back and you would expect that to come out. That's fine though, I don't regret it. Honestly, I'm down to Calm Mind and switch Avalugg out into Thundurus here. I don't think my opponent can deal with Fini in this late game. The only risk in Calm Minding here is if I get crit. So, it may have been better to just go for Muddy Water this turn. The thing about bringing Avalugg out, like the reason I didn't bring out Avalugg, and this was good play on my opponent's end, was because like I had revealed Thundurus. I didn't think my opponent would really just want to switch in a Celesteela into Thundurus. But like they bring out Porygon, right? Like right now, I don't see a great path to victory for them in beating the Tapu Fini. Once I get Calm Mind boosts off. The other question is what kind of set the Celesteela is. It was a free Muddy Water this turn, but I really don't mind switching out here. I think this is totally fine. Because I can just taunt Porygon, Calm Mind again next turn. I guess like Leech Seed Steela here is a little bit scary. I really want to see what kind of set this is. Flash Cannon, okay. Into Fini? Yeah, it's fine with me. No special defense drop, which is really critical. If I see that, I'm typically expecting Assault Vest on Celesteela. Can't say that with 100% confidence, though. I'm down to Calm Mind again and Taunt here into Porygon, I think. Because I think Fini should win us the game. And if... oh my gosh. Okay. Definitely was not expecting double ally switch on my opponent's team. That is interesting. Now, what is really interesting if you're Meteor Beam Power up here... that would actually be a very big problem, and I think there's a decent chance it is that. Double ally switch, did not see that coming. Oh boy. Oh, I don't know if we can win this now. Whole plan was to make Porygon like useless, but I mean, even if I Thunderbolted there, still wouldn't have done much, right? Unless they targeted Fini here for some reason. Nope, they target Thundurus. Yeah, that's smart because you get a Beast Boost as well. Oh, man. I think I lose from that, actually. Nicely done. Did not expect double ally. This also, if I just brought out Thundurus first over the Avalugg, we would have, I think, likely won. Because I could have just gone Eerie, Impulse, Muddy Water. Well, no, Rotom could have still ally switched. But then, yeah, you don't accomplish that much, so... This is why ally switch can be a really strong play, right? Or a really strong move in general. +2 special attack. Maybe we can survive a Flash Cannon. Like, obviously I'm just going to Muddy Water right now. And go for Icicle Spear onto Celesteela. But if Porygon is Eerie Impulse, like, this is also hard. We could also get an accuracy drop here. I do have the Assault Vest, but with 2 stages of special attack, it's not over 50% on Celesteela. I do get the accuracy drop, though. And they miss Flash Cannon. Okay. Oh, but they do have Eerie Impulse on this. Ugh, the Porygon. That's also not great. Although we know that the Rotom doesn't have Protect, right? Unless it actually dropped Thunderbolt, but that would be super rare. It's obviously a huge Muddy Water accuracy into accuracy drop, though, and we're getting a lot of hits with Icicle Spear. That's huge. I think Muddy Water KO Celesteela now. So I'm just going to Muddy Water and go for Spear again. Celesteela's taunted, so I'm just going to double up onto that. Pokemon can be so cruel sometimes, I swear. That's fine. Curious if this KOs. I think it does, but... yeah. Okay, I think we would have had it if we connected that turn, because I think it's pretty tough for my opponent to beat Feeny and Avalugg, but I honestly made a bunch of mistakes in this game, and we were lucky to even be in that position. I needed the accuracy drop into the miss immediately, right? But this one like was kind of frustrating because I feel like it was in our control until it wasn't. And they ended up actually being Meteor Beams. That was like the one thing that would have countered our Thundurus as well. Yeah, it's kind of inexcusable to lose this game after the early start, especially because we got the crit onto the Garchomp as well, right? Like, we were even lucky to get that crit to begin with. I definitely didn't expect double ally switch here. That's why it can be a really good move. And ultimately, I guess I should have just brought Thunder, because honestly, Thundurus was really good into anything my opponent could have brought in as well, right? Like, I was like, oh, I can bring out Avalugg, like, they're not going to bring out Celesteela, but like, Thundurus would have done well into Zapdos, Moltres, and Porygon as well. So, like, the key mistake in this game was not bringing out Thundurus first instead of the Avalugg. Because the Avalugg I just switched out, right? We were in a position where he boosted the Feeny out. If I brought Thundurus out, I could have just T-bolted Muddy Watered. So, that was the main mistake, I would say. Yeah, with Eerie Impulse. I mean, I guess there is a slight win condition here where we crit Muddy Water, but yeah, not worth to play it out at this point. Like, we would need a billion crits. And actually, with Porygon having Recover, there's really not much of an out. All they need... Even if I crit Muddy Water on Porygon that turn... I don't think it's enough to KO, and then they just recover to heal it off. So, yeah. I can't complain about that one, right? Like, we got lucky in the beginning of the game with that crit on Garchomp. Yeah, the main mistake I made in this game was not bringing Thundurus out when I should have. Like, I got greedy bringing Avalugg out. There just wasn't very much good justification in bringing it out the turn I did. Like, just because it's not... Like, Avalugg would have done... Like, because Thundurus would have done well into everything my opponent had in the back as well. Like, that's the main reason. So, yeah. Okay, this feels like a pretty good Avalugg game. Like, Thundurus Avalugg here is very good, actually, I think. So I'm happy with that. Feeny's valuable, set up a terrain, does well into Torkoal. Man, I'm honestly contemplating Bronzong just as an answer into Porygon, but it's probably Urshifu. Yeah, that last one kind of slipped out of our hands. And that's why it's very important to consider what Pokemon to switch into. I just thought because I had revealed the Avalugg that they didn't want to switch into Celesteela. Sorry, because I revealed Thundurus. But in the end, it benefited them that they just switched in Celesteela. You could see why, because they had the Meteor Beam. So even if I switched in Thundurus there, what would I have done? I probably would have gone Eerie Impulse on a Celesteela, Calm Mind onto Feeny. But then I would think Celesteela still KOs, even with the Eerie Impulse, because we were only at like 50%. I could have just Thunderbolted and Muddy Watered. That actually might have been the game-winning play. It's just tough because I didn't know what set the Celesteela was going to be there too. So, once again, you know, that's why the element of surprise can be very valuable in VGC. And, yeah, really nicely done by my opponent in that game. I'm just kind of mad at myself for not bringing Thundurus out first. Urshifu plus Aleki. This is definitely a little bit scary. Like, they could max. Well, we don't take that much damage from close combat, though. So the play I kind of want to make is knock out Urshifu on turn 1. Do I really need to KO Urshifu, actually? Like, it's... Like, the reason I'm not... It's just I'm nervous about Aleki maxing on us. Play I want to make here is to Swagger into the Avalugg and then Hailstorm. Okay, I think I'm down for that. Okay, they're not maxing, which is good as well. I don't know why I prioritize KOing Urshifu so much here, though, considering... I guess it's the main threat to Avalugg. Yeah, I don't know. This is slightly questionable. Because Urshifu is really weak to what I have in the back. It's just not very good into my opponent team other than App. But I feel like it's a big enough threat to Avalugg that it's fine going for this. Okay, we haven't missed any self-swaggers, which has been fortunate too. That's pretty critical. I kind of expect Volt Switch, like Wicked Blow into Thundurus, but it could also be T-Bolt. Oh gosh. Wait, that was so much. That's definitely Specs, first of all. Okay, it's fine, honestly, because I can just Eerie Impulse Alecki next turn, so it's actually not that bad, but... Even with Specs, I can't believe it did that much into the... Yeah, into us, to be honest. I mean, it's gotta be Specs, right? We're like Assault Vest, Special Defense. We have a lot of Special Defense investment as well. Like, yeah, it's 36 HP, 220 Spadef. But this is fine, right? Because now I know your Specs, so I can just Eerie Impulse your Alecki this next turn. If you bring out Venusaur, Venusaur gets tricky then because I didn't want to taunt. Yeah, I don't mind getting rid of Urshifu turn 1. We're like, it's nice that they went Wicked Blow instead of Close. I don't think Close Combat would have KO'd the Ice Table, but it would have done a lot. I guess this is scary because now you can just max your Lando and Rockfall. So then the question is whether or not Rockfall is enough for a KO onto us. Even if it's not, it's still a problem, isn't it? Because you're just going to Thunderbolt and Rockfall into that slot. I can't protect. This is actually really tough. Could go for the Swagger onto Landorus. I think I'm going to Eerie Impulse here. I'm not confident in surviving. Wow, I'm really surprised by Alecki's damage output. I didn't think we were really in immediate danger of taking too much damage on turn 1. Okay. Well, here you should always Rockfall plus Thunderbolt into Avalugg, but it's not like I can, like, make a clever switch anyway, so I think I just take it. But this is, like, a really smart answer against AV Pokemon, right? Like, part of the issue is that Avalugg's not really snowballing this very quickly. So unless somehow we survive Rockfall plus Thunderbolt onto Avalugg, I'm not super optimistic about that. This is definitely not great for us. Because I can't deal with Landorus very easily outside of using my Avalugg. Yeah, there's T-Bolt. I don't think we survive Rockfall. We'd barely... They Airstream, though. That's such a big misplay, in my opinion. I think you have to Rockfall there. I mean, they went for it to get a speed boost, right? But what's the point of getting a speed boost here? I think that was just, like, a very blatant misplay. Like, overly greedy, in my opinion. Even if you're not expecting Eerie Impulse, like, I feel like a speed boost literally accomplished... Oh, it helps your Landorus outspeed, like, later on. So that play makes sense if you're expecting a guaranteed KO onto the Avalugg, but like that just instantly loses them the game, right? So yeah, I think that was definitely a little bit greedy on their end. So we'll take it, but this could have been a much worse position if they just went Rockfall plus T-Bolt, right? Yeah, the main thing here is I just really didn't expect Alecki to do as much damage as it's doing, so that's pretty impressive. Okay, I think here it's honestly we just Eerie Impulse the Venusaur, yeah, and Hailstorm. I probably lose both Pokemon, but that's fine because I have Urshifu and Feeny in the back. Yeah, like this is why you have to be a little bit careful when going for greedy plays, right? Like that Airstream. If you look at my team, what does a Speed Boost even let you outspeed? It's basically Cinderace, right? And Alecki's already faster than everything, so the Speed Boost basically is solely for Landorus-T. Yes, Specs Alecki, dang. That is, I'm really impressed by its damage output into Avalugg. Because we have a AV and we're like near max special defense. I'm just double checking Avalugg's base stats right now. It is only base 46 special defense, so I suppose I shouldn't be that surprised. Yeah, so this was AV Lando, Koba Venu. Interesting, they're not running the Sleep Powder set, they have Protect, which I like a lot because your opponent always expect Protect, or sorry, Sleep Powder. Wow, this is... okay. Well, actually, it's just not that crazy. I mean, try attack, recover, Trick Room are all standard. But yeah, Alice Switch P2. Very strong option. That's what we ran into in the last game. Charcoal, Torkoal. We went to 3-1 today. Like, the third game, I feel like I definitely could have played a lot better with Thundurus. I didn't do a great job with that. This game, like, I don't feel great about either, just because, like, this would have been a lot tough. Like, we insta-won off my opponent making a subpar play, right? It's just, I did not expect Choice Specs Alecki, like, ever. You don't see that very often. Let me see how many people are even running Specs Alecki on Picolytics. Regieleki. Well, Specs is the third most common item. It's more common than Life Orb right now. Wow, that's actually really interesting. So I guess this is trending upwards slightly in terms of the meta. Like 16% of players use Specs, 12% Life Orb, 18% Focus At. Well, let's look on Battle Spot Double specifically, because I was looking on Showdown, I think. Yeah, on Showdown, Specs is still the third most common item. Or sorry, Battle Spot. Magnets 56%, Life Orb 20, Specs 11. So nice job on my opponent to go for that Specs T-Bolt. Yeah. If I were to play that differently, knowing they were... I just would never expect Specs Lucky in the beginning. Like, I would assume Magnet over it, but, like, I could have gone Thundurus plus... We don't have a better lead, I think. Because this team doesn't have any electric resists, right? Or immune, so Lecky in general is actually really strong into it. Yeah, wow. Interesting to see an AV Pokemon take, like, 40% from an attack. Yeah, that would have played out completely differently, obviously, if they went for Rockfall instead. If they went for Rockfall, what would we have even done? Probably bring in Feeny. But then with Feeny, it's tough. The last one was Venusaur too, so I think my opponent would have likely won that game if they Rockfalled into the Ice. I don't know what the right approach in that game is, though. Like, even now, even knowing their sets, I can't think of a significantly better lead. You would think to set up Trick Room with Bronzong, but they led specifically to counter Bronzong. Or not even just to counter Bronzong, but their lead was very good into Bronzong, right? Because you could just double up onto Bronzong with Wicked Blow and a Thunderbolt. I guess the best play would be to just, like, ally switch Cheese on turn 1. If I go Bronzong Cinderace. But then they could just switch on into Lando. So... it's tough. I would have needed to one-shot a Lecky. Maybe we could have let Urshifu. That could have been interesting as well, but then they could go Wicked Blow close combat. So I guess it's actually not that good of a matchup. Avalugg looked really good on paper, but because they were Specs Lecky, like, yeah, it does a lot of damage. What I ideally would want to do, that I can't, like, figure out right now, is how do I bring Avalugg but max, like, KO a Lecky and then max Avalugg? But I don't see an easy plan, easy path for that. Maybe it's Thundurus Feeny, Eerie Impulse Lecky, Calm Mind, but I'm never doing that in a best of 1 because I'm normally expecting Magnet or Life Orb Lecky. And then Lecky as a max option is also very likely if I lead, you know, Thundurus and Feeny. So, yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. This team was really fun. Always awesome to use anti-meta Pokemon like Avalugg. I mean, this team has a lot of really interesting components, and it's a very strong team. Like, you know, normally when people see, oh, you're using something that isn't very common, you know, this is probably kind of like a gimmick. But no, I actually think like Avalugg's very, seriously good into a lot of the meta game right now. And you can see how this team has good team building, covers for a lot of its weaknesses, and that really came out in some of the games today. So, you know, Avalugg didn't have as dominant of a performance, but it baited out a lot of our attacks from our opponents, and that certainly benefited us as well. So sometimes, you know, Pokemon can have a lot of big impact even if it doesn't directly show. I kind of think about it in terms of like a sports reference, for example, where maybe you know, a specific player in like basketball, for example, wasn't scoring a ton, and maybe it doesn't even show up in their stats, but they're just like their presence on the court, for example, enables their partners. That's kind of the case here, where maybe in terms of the stats, yeah, it's not like Avalugg picked up like 10 KOs across the couple of games, right? But it put on a lot of pressure, and our opponents certainly had to respect that pressure. So, the game 3, like I already talked about where I misplayed, and I definitely should have just brought Thundurus out. Like, Avalugg coming out makes sense if it beats everything, but it was weak to Celesteela. But yeah, that third game was just funny. Like, so it's like when Pokemon reels you in, gives you that little bit of hope, and then steals it away. But I think the right player won in that game. Like, my opponent deserved to win that one, and we got pretty lucky to begin with that crit and that Muddy Water accuracy drop. And I didn't need to rely on RNG to win that game, right? Like, if I just played better, we had the matchup, but I didn't execute the matchup correctly. So, yeah. That's it for this one, though, so thanks as always for watching. Go check out the creators of the team down in the description below, as well as a rental and a paste. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day. I don't know if I answered that in the beginning of the day. I don't think I did. My answer to the question of the day would be Teamfight Tactics. I'm playing that the most right now, but you know, just casually play some games every now and then. Got into Borderlands 2 with my friends, and I downloaded this game called Golf with Your Friends the other day, which is pretty fun as well. So sorry for not answering that in the beginning, but that's it for this one, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.